This is another FreeCAD path tutorial video. I'm recording this in July of 2017, and there's a couple of new features that have been merged in recently into the master branch that don't have much of a user interface component. There isn't anything new in the task panel, and so you wouldn't know these if you didn't go looking for them. That's why I want to cover them in a video here. So let's jump over to FreeCAD. I've got a test shape here, which is just a hexagon with some protrusions on it. And if you were going to mill this on a milling machine or something, the first thing you'd do is clamp the stock in and then do a mill operation at the height of the highest protrusion and kind of face it off. And so if I do that, I've already got a job with a default tool set up in here. So I just hit the mill face operation. The first thing, actually, let me do a side note here and say that all the operations now have apply, cancel, and OK buttons. And so the path isn't automatically generated unless you hit apply or dismiss it with the OK. And that's just to save it from continuously regenerating every time you change a property. So if I hit OK or apply, you'll see that we get a correct path. Now if I zoom in on the path and take a closer look, what we're seeing is the cutter doing a rapid move to a position above the first position in the path, and then doing a rapid move down to the safe height, then doing a feed move, this little tiny feed move right here, to the start of the path, and then proceeding to do the zigzag back and forth as controlled by the other properties on the operation. And that's fine if the cutter can plunge in, but if you're using something like a face mill or a large diameter cutter, it doesn't necessarily have a cutting edge in the center, and so that would be a crash. You need to descend on a ramp or helical or come in from the side. So usually with a face mill, what we want to do is bring the cutter all the way to a position outside the stock and then descend down to the start point and then feed in sideways until and do the clearing that way. So what I can do is select the face operation and scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's properties here now for the start point, and then one to enable or disable whether this start point is taken into account when it's generating the path. So at this point you have to set the coordinates manually. It's not a big deal, but you'll see that my outside corner here is like negative 30.37 and then 55.34 on the y-axis. So I'm going to set this at like negative 40.60, just so it's well outside the boundary. And then the most important thing is that the Z height, this is the point that it's going to start feeding from. So in this case, I want my Z height to be the same height as the path, which on this model is 20. And then if I turn the start point on, you'll see that the path is regenerated, and it now rapids over outside the material, then down, and then in the way that we would want. So that's basically how start points work. They're enabled on all the other operations as well, and should be able to use them pretty straightforward. I'm going to close this model, and I'm going to open up another one here. And all these models here are included in the Path Torture repository on my GitHub account. So if you ever want to test something that I did or try to duplicate it, those are out there. And this one I use primarily for testing the pocket operation. It's got a number of different features with bottom shapes that are different, curved bottoms and flat bottoms and through holes and so forth. So I've already got the job set up, and the job references the solid, and I've got the default tool. So all I have to do is hit a pocket operation and hit apply, and this one will take a couple of seconds to generate. It's a much more complex path, and you'll see that it generates the pocket for all the different holes, not necessarily clearing correctly there, but that's probably an artifact of the pattern that it's selected. But the more disappointing thing about this path is the number of red rapid moves that you're seeing in here, and the reason it's doing this is that the pocket operation, this is really one pocket operation of the whole solid, It's not 7 pockets, it's 1 pocket with 7 low points, if that makes sense. So when it goes to proceed, it goes to the first feature, and it clears 1 layer, and then it moves to the next feature and clears the same layer, and then the next feature, and so forth. Then it goes back to the first one and does the second layer. So it spends a lot of time rapiding around, and what we'd really like to do is clear from top to bottom in one place and then move on and clear the next one. So if you go back and do the same thing again, we're going to set the start point, and in this case my corner is at -117, -122. I'm going to set my start point to that. Now, when you're working in the property pane here, every change forces an automatic regeneration of the path, because we don't have the that apply button. And so to get around that and just to speed things up a little bit, you can set the operation to inactive, then make your changes. So I'll make this -122, -130, and I think my top is at 30. And that's really the most important thing for what I'm going to show you, is that the z-axis has to be at least as high as the top of the stock, or top of the part. Now I'm going to set use start point to be turned on, and now I'm going to re-enable the operation, and it'll regenerate once here. Looking about the same as it did before, but now we have our new path here coming in. However, I can now go up. There's a new property, Boolean, that will, in the pocket group, called min travel. And if I enable this, what it does is it forces the path area to sort all the wires that it's pocketing against in order of minimum travel distance. So now it comes in and it clears the top, then the next layer, staying in this feature till it hits the bottom, and then moves over to the next one, and so forth. And that works pretty well for what we want. The reason that we have to set the start point on this is it's using the start point to determine top and bottom, the order that it's going through. And if you've got your start point set at like 0, it's going to actually try to pocket from the bottom to the top. And that's a crash. So, be warned, and make, double check your paths before you try to run anything. We'll add additional checks in the code to make sure that eventually it's obeying the bound box of the part or something like that. But for right now, this works, but it does have a certain risks to it. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you with start points. If you have any questions or comments, please get onto the FreeCAD FreeCAD forum in the PathCam section, leave a comment or some feedback, and let me know what you think. Thanks.